Here we go. So, we are dealing with speed and velocity. And yesterday I had put some formulas on the board for you and told you to write them at the top of your paper. You really should have written them at the top of this page. That was my fault. So, I'm going to write them up here now. So, speed is going to be distance divided by time. I'm going to jot that up there. And velocity, they show us in the section, they put it also as distance over time. It's what we call displacement over time if you ever take physics. But we're going to put distance over time, and I'm going to put next to that, oh my gosh, this pen sucks. Hold on, give me a second. And I'm going to put next to that with direction, because the direction matters for velocity. So with the direction. And here's the deal. If you struggle with algebra, and like if you were to look at this and you wouldn't be able to solve for T, or you wouldn't be able to solve for D, that's where this triangle comes into play. It really helps for people that struggle with the math. This triangle is just a different way of thinking about things. Okay. And all you do is you put the V in the bottom, the D up top, and the T on the bottom. So what this triangle is saying, anything that's over top of each other means division, and anything that's next to each other means multiplication. So this means that velocity is distance divided by time. Okay, that's that formula. If I were to take this formula and multiply both sides by t, I'd get that distance is velocity times time. Well, that's what this is saying as well. The distance, the d is by itself. Since v and t are next to each other, this one means distance is velocity times time. And then if you ever need to solve for time, time is going to be distance divided by velocity. So this is a way to help you remember this formula and all three versions of it if you don't want to have to do the algebra to figure out what it is, okay? Okay, so let's try some of these problems out and hopefully it'll make some more sense. Answer the following questions. Make sure to show all work to receive credit. That's important. If you guys just write the answers, you won't get credit. You may need a separate sheet of paper. If you guys need a separate sheet of paper, I have blank paper up here to give you a little more space. That's completely fine. Number one, a student practicing for a cross-country meet. Does anyone in here run cross-country? No? Is anyone in here a runner? They just run for funsies? Okay, good. It's really good for you. Okay, a student practicing for a cross-country meet runs 250 meters in 30 seconds. What is her average speed? Okay, so this is over a given distance. The distance is 250 meters and the time is 30 seconds. So to find that speed, we're going to use that speed equals distance over time. So we're going to put speed equals, what is the distance here? What is the distance that we're given? Yeah, it's the meters. It's the 250 meters. That's the distance. Okay, and then over time, so it's distance divided by time, right? What's the time that we're given? 30 seconds. Good. So now, if you guys type that into like Desmos, or I have calculators up here, whichever you want to do, what's 250 divided by 30? What's 250 divided by 30? 8.3. It ends up being like 8.3 repeating, right? Yeah. Okay, so he's just rounding that to 8.3. He got like 8.3 repeating. He's just rounding it to 8.3. And we need to keep our units the same. So since this was meters per second, this is also going to be meters per second. Okay, so that's going to be her average speed. That means throughout her race, throughout the 250 meters, on average, she was running 8.3 meters per second. Was she running that 8.3 meters per second steadily throughout the whole thing? Probably not. probably she starts off faster or she starts off slower. And then towards the end of the race, she gives everything that she's got left in it and she speeds up with everything she has left, right? So she probably didn't run a steady 8.3 meters per second, but this was her average speed. That's what it means to be average. We take into account all the speeds over the time, and we do that by saying the total distance divided by the total time. Okay, cool. Any questions on that one? If anyone needs a copy of this, come get it. If you don't have yours with you and you need a copy, you can still grab it. I have extras. And then I also have pencils up here, but you guys should be getting this down because we're literally doing it together, so it makes your life easier. Okay, next one says, what is the velocity of a car that traveled a total of 75 kilometers north in 1.5 hours? And they're asking for velocity. What's my formula for velocity? It's up here. Yeah, good. It's still that distance divided by time, but we also have to add in what direction it is when we talk about it, okay? So our velocity is going to be distance divided by time. So the distance is 75 kilometers. The time that they gave us is 1.5 hours. Okay, and we need to keep into account the direction. So the direction was north, right? So I'm gonna keep the north chilling with it to remind me that that's north. Okay, so now I just need to type that in. Will someone type in for me 75 divided by 1.5 and tell me what you get? 15? Okay, awesome. Thank you guys. 50. Just kidding. 50. Is that better? 50? Okay, great. So we get 50 and we need to keep our units there. So the units are going to be kilometers per hour. And then we need to make sure we keep the direction. The direction is going to be north then. So whenever your car says its speed, miles per hour or kilometers per hour, if you know the direction that you're driving in, you now know the velocity as well. Okay, what this means is they can cover 50 kilometers in 1 hour. Okay, if they're doing 75 kilometers in 1.5 hours, that means they can cover 50 kilometers every hour, right? Just pointing that out. Make sure we're all on the same page. Okay, let's see here. Number 3, a space shuttle orbits Earth at a speed of 21,000 kilometers per hour. That's probably pretty accurate. They go pretty fast up there. How far will it travel in 5 hours? Okay, so we know the speed, right? That's what this is. We know our speed. We know our time. So what we don't know is our distance. So you have options here. If you're good with algebra, what you can do is you can plug in the right stuff in the right places and solve that equation. I'll show you how to do it that way. If you're not good with algebra, that's where this triangle comes in that might help you out. I'm going to show you guys both ways on this, and then you can decide what works for you. Let me grab paper, because if I'm showing both ways, I'm probably going to need paper. I don't care how you do it, as long as you show your work and get the right answer. So if you're like, hey, math is not my jam, this first way that I show it to you, you're not going to like. Hang on tight, and we'll go over the second way, and I think you'll like it better if you're not good with math. Okay, so we know the speed. So we know the speed is 21,000 kilometers per hour. And how about you guys pause on writing this and just sort of pay attention to it? And then depending on which method you like, you can jot it down. I'll give you time. Okay, so the speed is 21,000 kilometers per hour. The time we know is 5 hours. Okay, so if we do this the mathy way, what you're gonna do is you're gonna use that speed equals distance divided by time formula, and you're just gonna put the right stuff in the right places. So I'm gonna put 21,000 kilometers per hour in for S over here. And then I'm gonna put 5 hours in for T over here. That means that my unknown is the D. I don't know what the D for distance is, and that works out because they asked how far it will travel. So that means we're solving for the right thing. So if you're doing this the algebra, the mathy way, if we're solving for D, what's keeping D from being by itself here? What's on the same side of the equals sign that's with the D? It's the 5, right? The 5 hours. And if we want to get rid of the 5 hours so that D can be by itself, we have to undo this division sign. So how do I undo dividing by 5? What's the opposite of dividing by 5? Multiplying by 5. Okay, this is where then what you do is to get rid of dividing by 5, I'm going to multiply both sides by 5 hours. And you do that on both sides because you have to keep it balanced. Okay, so when I multiply both sides by 5 hours, these two 5s undo each other on the right. Okay, and that leaves you with just the D chilling by itself on the right. And here I'm just gonna multiply straight across then. Will someone figure out what is 5 times 21,000? What's 5 times 21,000? 5 times 21,000. This one you can actually do in your head. What's 5 times 2? What's 5 times 2? 10, yeah. What's 5 times 1? Yeah, and then you keep your zeros chilling with it. Good. It's 105,000. And then what happens over here then with the units, we had hours on the top here. We had hours on the bottom here. Just like how numbers cancel out, units cancel out the same way. So hours was on the top, hours was on the bottom. Those two also undid each other with the units. Units can be divided and multiplied just like numbers can. So our units is left with just kilometers, which makes sense because kilometers is how we measure distance. It's one of the ways we measure distance. Okay, so this is the mathy way of doing things. If that just like blew your mind, then let's do it the other way and see if it makes a little more sense. Okay, the other way is that triangle method. A lot of scientists really like this triangle method. As someone who studied math in school, I struggle with it, but it completely depends on what floats your boat. Okay, so we still know the same things, right? We still know that the speed is 21,000 and we know the time is 5 hours. So we know the speed and the time, or in this case, the velocity. I should have put the speed here. I put velocity there. It's the same thing, just the velocity has direction. So we know these two things, right? And we're trying to figure out the distance. This is where this triangle is helpful then, because based on this triangle, since velocity and time are next to each other, those means that they multiply together to give us our distance. So our distance is our velocity or speed. I'm gonna write it as speed. I'll put that as an S here. Let me redraw that with an S. Yeah, because I can't. We'll do it with an S this time. That way it doesn't confuse you. Speed, distance, time. Okay. So since these two are next to each other, that means multiply. So we know distance equals speed times time. Okay. We also know speed is distance divided by time. I'm gonna write that one out to the side. That way you can see what I'm doing with the triangle. And then we know time is distance divided by speed. So this gives you a way of knowing the 3 variations of the formula without having to do any algebra, just by using the triangle. Distance is speed times time. Speed is distance divided by time. Time is distance divided by speed. Those are the 3 variations, the 3 ways that you could say that formula. So we're going to use this one because we were given the speed and the time. We know the speed is 21,000 kilometers per hour. We know that the time is 5 hours. And when we multiply straight across, then we get 21,000 times 5. That's that same 105,000 that we got over here using the other method. And when we multiply straight across for our units, it's kilometers over hours times hours. So the hours cancel out here, and that leaves us with just kilometers. Oh, hey, that's the same thing we got over here doing a bunch of algebra to solve it. Whereas here we use the triangle, and that way we didn't have to do algebra to get the formula in the right format. Okay, so those are the 2 options for solving these. You can either use your triangle, that velocity or speed triangle, or you can solve it algebraically. I normally prefer the left. The one on the right, though, is a lot faster. You don't have to do the algebra. Okay, so you should get one of those versions down. You should either do the left one, the algebraic one, or the right one, that's the triangle one. Those are your 2 options. I'll give you guys a second to get those down on your paper, and then we'll keep going. People that aren't writing, you guys already have this down, right? Good acknowledgement. Good talk. You're good? Okay, cool. Okay, fantastic. So let's do another one, just so that I know what you guys are into. Who prefers to do it like this left side? Who prefers to do it like the left side, the algebraic way? You like that way? Who prefers to do it the right side, like the triangle way? Okay, the triangle way is faster. The algebraic way, if you know algebra, you're probably more comfortable with that, and it's good practice for your math class. So it's completely up to you how you do it. Okay, I'm gonna take turns doing different ways on the next couple, just so that you can see. If you prefer the other way, do it the other way, and make sure you get the same thing as me. That could be a good way for you to use your brain. Okay, so we just did number 3 on a separate sheet of paper. Okay, now I'm gonna do number 4. So number 4 says, what is the velocity of a plane that traveled 3,000 miles from New York City to California in 4.5 hours? And since they're asking for velocity, we're gonna have to make sure that we add in which direction it's in. So we would say like in the direction of California. And that way we're good to go. And we're taking into account that. So I'm gonna do this one the triangle way, just to get some practice on that. But you guys that like that algebraic way, please feel free to do that. So my triangle, again, I'm just gonna sketch it here so that way you guys can see it. My triangle looks like that. And I am given my miles and my hours. That's my distance and my time, right? So I'm given distance and time, and I'm trying to find velocity. I guess it ends up being the same. So that means that I'm going to use velocity as distance divided by time. Okay, so my distance is 3,000 miles. Remember, miles is MI, meters is M. And then hours is 4.5 hours. Okay, will someone type that in for me? 3,000 divided by 4.5 and let me know what that is. What'd you get? 6? Just 6? What is it? 66.66? Okay. And was it 0.666 repeating? Okay, so we're gonna round that to like 0.67 then. Okay. And that would be miles per hour. Okay. Now we also need to write the direction. So the direction from New York to California, if we wanted to get a map, right, that would be probably west or southwest, right? Or we could just say the direction as towards, I'm just gonna write the direction as towards California from New York. Okay, I'm curious to see what the answer key put on theirs, if they put an actual direction or if they just wrote it like I would. That's how I would write it, is just towards California from New York. Let me check and see what the answer key does on that to see what they expect. Uno momento. Let's see here. Keys. This is page 7. Yeah, they didn't do it like that. They did the cardinal directions like I originally had said. They put, instead of towards California from New York, they just said that was like west. Okay, so they put just west. I mean, I would have written it this way. They put west. As long as you're indicating which direction it is, you're fine. Yeah, I would have put west or southwest, right? Because it's slightly south. Okay. Fantastic. Here's the deal then. I want you guys to go ahead and try 5, 6, 7, 8 on your own. Okay, just remember, you're using these formulas up top, and you need to make sure you put the right stuff in the right places and keep the units with it so that way you end up with the correct units. A sign that you've done something wrong is that you end up with units that aren't the correct units. And as always, make sure you show your work. Okay, so go ahead and try 5, 6, 7, 8 on your own. And then I'm gonna just silently work through them up here for the people that are absent so that they can check it. Only look up here if you need it. Okay, so go ahead and work through it. Ignore me, and I'll be silently working through stuff up here for the recording for the people that are absent in case they need it. Okay, so go ahead and do that. And I will hush and let you guys work. course I'd write the wrong thing. Okay, so number 5, if you guys did it algebraically, you had to do some weird tricks to get it, okay? You had to realize I have to get the t out of the bottom, so I'm gonna multiply both sides by t, or you had to make it into a proportion and then like cross multiply if you did it that way. If you were doing it algebraically, it took a lot more steps. If you did it using this triangle thing for number 5, it's a lot easier. This triangle thing is telling us velocity is distance divided by time. Time is distance divided by velocity. Well, we're given our distance, right? That's the 20 miles. We're given our distance and we're given our velocity. So it's in our best interest to use the formula in this format instead, because it makes things a lot faster. So if you know time is distance divided by velocity, based on the velocity triangle or whatever it's called, you just have to plug this stuff in the right places then. You would put the 20 in for the distance, the 35 in for the velocity, 20 divided by 35. When I typed it in, I got 0.57. Hopefully that's what you guys got too. And then the miles cancel out and it leaves you with just hours, which makes sense because that's a unit of time, which is hours. So if you did it algebraically, this is one of the ways you could have done it. Remember, with algebra, there's tons of different ways to do things algebraically, depending on what you've learned. So you could have even done it algebraically and done it different than me. As long as you show your work and get that 0.57 hours, if I type that in right, yeah, 0.57 hours, you should be okay. You guys okay with that? Okay, cool. I'm gonna keep silently chugging through stuff. Feel free to look up here when you want to or if you need to. And if you need me to pause and talk about something, just holler at me, okay? Do I have any Harry Potter fans in here? Anyone that's read Harry Potter, loves Harry Potter? Okay. I think I've read the books like over 30 times. I was crazy about it when I was in high school. Okay. Okay, that's your 2-minute warning for your pack up alarm. Here's the deal. If you guys would please finish these up, if you don't already have them finished, I'll do this last couple of problems and I'll attach this video on Google Classroom in case you need it. But yeah, go ahead and pack up and take this with you and get it done. And if you have any questions when we start off tomorrow, you can ask those, okay? How long would it take a car to travel 200 kilometers if it has an average speed of 55 kilometers per hour? So we know our distance and we know our speed and we're trying to figure out our time. Okay, so this one's one where like that triangle is helpful. Speed is distance divided by time. So if we're trying to figure out the time, we want to do distance divided by speed. So to get the time, that's going to be distance, which is 200 kilometers, divided by my speed, which is 55 kilometers per hour. The kilometers cancel. That leaves us with our units as hours. And so we're just going to do 200 divided by 55. That's 3.64. So, oops, I circled the wrong thing. That'll be our time, 3.64. And then the challenge. A car drives 240 miles south in 3 hours. Velocity means direction. We need to find it in miles per hour and meters per second.